I am Alice Upshaw Hawkins, the first Black president of the League of Women Voters in its 78-year history, and I am about to enter my classroom to teach my English 1301 students here at the Oso Creek campus. Throughout the history of voting for African Americans, it's always been fraught. It's always been a difficult decision to even have the guts to go and cast your vote. African Americans had to count beans, pay poll tax, all of those prohibitive things that were asked of them because it was the willingness to stop the African American from voting. There's always been that muddying of the water to try to discourage people from going to the polls. I mentioned to you about the poll tax, which was one of those ploys. My mom in the 40s, 50s, and 60s paid for poll tax. I remember her paying something around $1.50 for poll tax. This was back in the 40s. She was making 50 cents an hour as a domestic. I did a little bit of calculation, and according to my research, back in the 40s and 50s, poll tax cost $1.50. If we fast forward, it is interpolated into a $50 item. So, you can do the math, you can think back and understand that that was a high hurdle to get over just to cast your vote. We've come a long way, but make no mistake, we have got to go farther. We've got to work harder. We've got to be tenacious. We've got to be stubborn and not take no for an answer and keep pushing forward in order to keep the right to vote active. We all know Martin Luther King Jr., he was an icon, but I go back to Fannie Lou Hamer, who was an activist. She helped get that 1965 Voting Rights Act put in place. I don't think very many people know her. She was a black woman down south. She was with Martin Luther King and all of those other icons, but I think she was a threat. People may recognize her in the arena of voting rights, but she was also a pioneer. She was thrown in jail because of her activism. She was beaten in jail to the point where she was crippled for the rest of her life. Fannie Lou and some of these other women that blazed that trail is the reason why I sit right here right now. Absolutely. We should continue to celebrate, to remember, lest we forget things that have happened. We are bound to repeat them. I think we should honor those people who came before us. We should remember them and honor them and know that whatever they stood for, the things that they accomplished, should not go cold. Martin Luther King did not give his life for us to walk away from the dream, because his dream allows us to be who we are today. For these young people, my message is get involved, school yourself. Learning is so important. I say step up. I encourage them to step up. I encourage them to be leaders, to observe what's around them, to read, to learn, to take risks, ask questions, because that is where our learning comes from. We didn't earn a whole month of celebration for us to sit on our hands. I think that the month of Black History is well deserved. I think we should embrace that and honor the idea that we are celebrated. We are celebrated people, and just not allow ourselves to be victims. Allow ourselves to be victorious.